It says, when David heard in the wilderness that Nabal was shearing his sheep, David sent 10 young men, and David said to the young men, go up to Carmel, go to Nabal and greet him in my name. Thus you shall say to him who lives in prosperity, peace be to you, peace to your house, and peace to all that you have. Now I have heard that you have shearers, your shepherds were with us, and we did not hurt them, nor was there anything missing from them all the while they were in Carmel. Ask your young men, and they will tell you. Therefore, let my young men find favor in your eyes, for we come on a feast day. Please give whatever comes to your hand to your servants and to your son David. So notice David is coming in humility. He's coming to a very wealthy man, and he's coming on a feast day. Now, in the Jewish culture, the time of sheep shearing was a time of feasting and hospitality. They believed strongly in hospitality, hosting people, giving people food to eat. And Nabal was very wealthy. David is saying, well, look, I have cared for everything under your hand. While you were away doing business, I was here helping your people. We could have attacked your people. We could have taken your sheep. We didn't do that. By day and by night, we protected your sheep. We looked after what you had. All I ask of you is a little bit of food. He doesn't even say, give us the best from your table. He basically says, whatever you have to spare, just give us what you have to spare. That's what we're happy with. And on top of that, David comes to him and he says, your son, David. David has been anointed to be the king. He's going to be king. He could have well have taken what he saw, but he says, your son David comes to you. He's coming in humility, and he says, all I ask is for a little bit of food to spare at a time when I know that you are feasting and you have food and more food. It's kind of like when people come to Christmas or come over for New Year's, we all have lots of food on our table. No different. He's like, all I want is a little bit, and I'm willing to have the scraps off the table. Your son David asked you. And unfortunately, the response that David got was not the response that he was looking for. It says in verse 9 and 10, when David's young men came, they spoke to Nabal according to all these words in the name of David and waited. Then Nabal answered David's servants and said, who is David and who is the son of Jesse? There are many servants nowadays who break away each from his master. Shall I then take my bread and my water and my meat that I have killed for my shearers and give it to men when I do not know where they are from? That's quite a slight. Your future king. And he's saying, look, he's like, who are you to me? You're nothing to me. Who is the son of Jesse? And he says, you're just a runaway slave. You're running away from King Saul. You're not anything to me. The attitude of Nabal is the same attitude of Pharaoh. You'll notice that in the story of Moses, Pharaoh asks a question. He says, who is the Lord that I should obey him and let Israel go? And if we look at both of those questions, behind those questions is an attitude of pride. Pride. Who are you? Who are you to me? What do you mean to me? Is pride a difficult thing? Is it hard? Hard dealing with our own pride, with other people's pride?
Dangerous.
It's dangerous. It's a really hard thing. And I tell you, we all face our own pride, and we all see other people's pride as well. But pride can lead people to do terrible things. Pride can destroy relationships. Pride can distort the way we see God, the way he wants us to see him. The writer C.S. Lewis says this about pride. He says this about the proud person. He says, as long as you are proud, you cannot know God. A proud man is always looking down on things and people. And of course, as long as you are looking down, you cannot see something that is above you. Pride makes us look down on everyone else. Oh, you're not important. I'm more important than you. And as long as we're looking down, we can't look up to God. Pride is a damaging thing because it takes our focus away from God and puts focus on us and other people. It brings comparison. And this is what Nabal was doing. He's like, oh, you're nothing to me. I've got money. I've got this, I've got that. I don't need to be kind to you. And David responds in a way that isn't good. In verses 12 and 13, it says, so David's young men turned on their heels and went back, and they came and told him all these words. And David said to his men, every man gird on his sword. So every man girded on his sword, and David also girded on his sword. And about 400 men went with David, and 200 stayed with the supplies. The rest of the story says that David geared up for battle. David went with his men. He's like, right, this man has slighted his future king. Not going to take it. I'm going to grab my army and we're going to go and destroy Nabal. He didn't take any time to think about it. He just went. He was in an unrestrained moment of anger. He took what he had and he was ready to do battle. In verse 21, it says, David said, surely in vain I have protected all that this fellow has in the wilderness, so that nothing was missed of all that belongs to him, and he has repaid me evil for good. May God do so, and more also to the enemies of David, if I leave one male of all who belong to him by morning light. Now, it's true that Nabal had slighted a king. He had shown pride. He had done all of this. But David's reaction, he's about to murder someone. He's about to murder a whole household because his pride was hurt. Because he felt slighted, he grabbed his things and ready to go to fight people and to kill them. Is that the attitude of a leader? Is that what we're called to do? Obviously not. Now, a lot of times in life, things happen that are unfair. And you and I have probably heard the saying hundreds of times, but it's not fair. How many of you are parents? Have you heard your kids say to you, but that's not fair? That's not fair. And we all have that sense of what is just and what is unjust. But David isn't going to bring justice. He's bringing revenge. Because he could have said, God, I'm going to leave this to you. I'm going to leave it in your hands. But instead, he goes, no, I'm going to settle a score, and I'm going to go and I'm going to do things in my own strength. One man's slander, one man's criticism is about to make a leader become a murderer. That's where pride can take us. It's an extreme case, but it's the fruit of that. Criticism can be a hard thing. Being slighted can be a hard thing. David was hurt, and I can understand that he was hurt. And we can all be hurt by other people's criticism and by other people's words. I remember a story where a pastor was writing for a magazine, and he was sending out articles because he thought those articles were blessing people. And then one day he decided to go to the comment section, And for any of you who have ever done anything public, you go to the comment section, it's not going to be pretty. And he went to the comment section and he found a few people going, oh, you know, this and this, and criticizing what had been written. And he felt so discouraged that he stopped writing. He thought, if it's not blessing people, I'm not going to do this anymore. And one day the editor of the magazine said, look, I'm noticing that I'm not getting any submissions from you. What's going on? And he said, well, I saw the comment section and I decided to stop writing. And the editor said, remember your audience. You are writing for people who have a master's degree. They're very busy people. They don't have time to comment. The people who are commenting on your articles are people who don't even know how to spell. He had made a decision based on criticism rather than making a decision to go, well, whatever happens, whether the criticism is justified or not, if God has called me to do something, I should keep doing it and not worry about whether somebody criticizes me for it or not. Now, that's the second person in the story. We're going to just quickly go to the third part of the story, which is where hope comes in. Verses 23 to 31, it says, now when Abigail saw David, she dismounted quickly from the donkey, fell on her face before David, and bowed down to the ground. She fell at his feet and said, on me, my Lord, on me let this iniquity be. Please let your maidservant speak in your ears and hear the words of your maidservant. Please let not my Lord regard the scoundrel Nabal, for as his name is, so is he. Nabal is his name, and folly is with him. But I, your maidservant, did not see the young men of my Lord whom you sent. Now, therefore, my Lord, as the Lord lives, and as your soul lives, since the Lord has held you back from coming to bloodshed and from avenging yourself with your own hand, now then, let your enemies and those who seek harm for my Lord be as Nabal.